All right. Ready to dive into something that haunts a lot of us.
Oh, yeah.
Public speaking. It's amazing how much research has gone into why some people just kill it on stage.
Right.
While others, well, they rather face a room full of snakes.
Uh-huh. It's true. Public speaking anxiety is surprisingly common.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Researchers are digging deep into it. Like this study we're looking at today, it's focused on accounting students and how they feel about giving presentations.
Gotta admit, when I think accounting students,
Yeah.
master presenters isn't the first thing that comes to mind.
Uh-huh. Right. That's the thing. There's this whole stereotype of accountants as
Yeah.
the number crunching introvert.
Right.
But in reality, communication skills are essential these days.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we've got this clash between perception and reality.
Yeah.
But before we get into that,
Okay.
let's talk about this fear itself. The study calls it public speaking anxiety, or PSA. But I think that's just one piece of a bigger puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. Public speaking anxiety is a subset of what's called oral communication apprehension, or OCA.
Right.
Basically, OCA covers anxiety in all kinds of speaking situations, from one-on-one chats to group discussions.
Yeah.
But public speaking is the one that really gets people's hearts racing.
So OCA is the broader fear.
Yeah.
And then PSA is the boss level.
Haha. A good way to put it. And the study found that, not surprisingly, accounting students consistently ranked public speaking as the most anxiety-provoking communication situation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just picturing a room full of eyes staring at you.
Oh, yeah.
It's enough to make anyone sweat. But what I'm curious about is, why? What is it about public speaking that triggers this, fear response in so many people?
Well, that's where the study gets really interesting. They identified 5 prominent causes of PSA.
Okay.
And some of them are pretty surprising.
All right, I'm ready to be surprised. Hit me with number 1.
Okay, first up is what they call trait-like individual differences.
Okay.
Essentially, it means some people might just be predisposed to anxiety in communication situations, potentially due to genetics.
So some folks are just wired a bit differently.
Yeah, that's one piece of the puzzle. But the researchers actually found that public speaking anxiety, it seems to have a stronger situational component compared to other types of communication anxiety.
Interesting. So it's not just about our genes. It's also about the specific context of public speaking that freaks us out.
Exactly. And that leads us to the second cause, which is novelty or unfamiliarity.
Okay.
For a lot of people, it's the unfamiliarity of public speaking that triggers the anxiety.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, we're generally afraid of the unknown, right? But doesn't that suggest that simply getting more experience, speaking in public,
Yeah,
could help reduce the fear?
absolutely. The more you do something, the less scary it becomes. Practice really does make perfect, or at least a lot less terrifying. Now, the third one,
Yeah.
this is where it gets a little tricky.
Yeah.
It's called the illusion of transparency.
Ooh, that sounds like a mind game. Tell me more.
So basically it boils down to this. We tend to overestimate how much our nervousness is actually visible to the audience. We think everyone can see, our hearts pounding,
Right.
palms sweating.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's often not that noticeable.
I actually have a funny story about that. I once gave a presentation,
Yeah.
and I was convinced my voice was cracking, and my knees were about to buckle.
Oh, no.
But afterwards, everyone was complimenting me on how calm and collected I seemed. I was shocked.
There you go. A perfect example of the illusion of transparency in action. Our brains, they kind of trick us
Right.
into thinking we're broadcasting our anxiety,
Yeah.
when in reality, the audience is often none the wiser.
So it's not just about being nervous. It's about how we perceive and amplify that nervousness in our own minds.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Okay, what's next on the list?
All right, so the fourth cause is all about our cognitive orientation.
Okay.
Or in simpler terms, it's about how we approach the act of presenting itself.
Okay.
People with a performance orientation tend to be more anxious because they focus on creating this flawless aesthetic experience for the listener.
So instead of just conveying the information, they're putting on a show, which adds a whole extra layer of pressure.
Precisely. And lastly, we have audience characteristics.
Okay.
As you might expect, factors like the size, the audience,
Right.
how well you know them, and how similar you perceive them to be, these can all influence your anxiety levels.
Yeah, I can definitely see how presenting to like a room full of strangers
Right.
would feel way more intimidating than sharing ideas with a close-knit team, you know? It's about feeling comfortable and connected.
Right, exactly. And that brings us back to the interesting case of accounting students. The study points out that they tend to have higher levels of communication apprehension compared to students in other fields, which seems kind of counterintuitive, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because you'd think a field that revolves around numbers would attract people who are like more comfortable with numbers than people.
Right.
So what's going on there?
Well, it's that disconnect we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
While the stereotype persists, the reality of the accounting profession today is that communication skills are vital.
So while they may be drawn to the field for its analytical nature, they're entering a profession that demands they be able to explain complex financial information clearly and persuasively.
Exactly. And that can create a real challenge for students who might not have prioritized developing those communication skills.
It's almost like there's this hidden hurdle they need to overcome.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this study so insightful. Right. It's not just about understanding the fear itself, but also about recognizing the specific challenges faced by, like, different groups of people.
It's about acknowledging that the fear is real.
Right.
But also that it doesn't have to be a roadblock. And to really get a grasp on that, the study goes beyond just the numbers and delves into the actual experiences of these accounting students.
Okay, so we're going from the what of public speaking anxiety to the how it actually plays out in real life.
Exactly.
This is where it gets really relatable.
Yeah, absolutely. And the students' reflections offer some incredibly valuable insights.
So you've got these 5 main causes of public speaking anxiety.
Right.
But the study doesn't just leave it at that. It goes deeper, like exploring how these anxieties actually play out in the lives of these accounting students.
That's where the qualitative data gets really interesting.
Okay.
They ask students to reflect on their actual presentation experiences. And the responses offer like a fascinating glimpse into the diverse ways.
People cope with this fear.
Okay, so we're going beyond the numbers and getting into like the nitty-gritty of what it actually feels like to stand up there and present.
Right.
What were some of the key themes that emerged from these reflections?
Well, the responses generally fell into 3 categories. Students who managed to overcome their apprehension.
Okay.
Students who were still, struggling with it.
Right.
And students who seemed to genuinely enjoy presenting.
Okay.
And within each category, there were some really insightful observations.
Okay, let's start with the overcomers. What helped them push through those initial nerves?
A lot of them found that their anxiety actually decreased as the presentation went on. Like that initial wave of terror subsided once they got into the flow of things.
That's encouraging. It means even if you feel like you're going to pass out in the first few minutes, there's hope for the rest of the presentation. What else helped them?
Practice and preparation were huge, as we've already touched on.
Yeah. But what's interesting is the emphasis they placed on how they practiced.
Right.
It wasn't just about memorizing the material.
Right.
It was about actively seeking feedback, recording themselves, and refining their delivery.
So it's not just mindless repetition, but deliberate practice with the goal of continuous improvement.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Right.
What about the students who are still grappling with their fears? What were their main concerns?
Predictably, the fear of being judged by the audience was a big one.
Yeah.
Forgetting what to say, making mistakes, even experiencing physical symptoms like shaking or feeling sick. These were all common anxieties.
It's amazing how our brains can conjure up all these worst case scenarios.
Oh, yeah.
I've definitely been there.
Totally.
And then we have the confident bunch, the ones who seem to thrive in the spotlight. What was their secret?
Not surprisingly, thorough preparation and deep knowledge of their topic were key factors.
Makes sense.
They had that I know my stuff confidence that comes from putting in the work.
Preparation really is the foundation, isn't it? But it sounds like there was more to it than just knowing the material.
Right. Some of them felt more at ease presenting as part of a group.
Okay.
Sharing the responsibility and the spotlight.
Right.
And of course, previous experience played a role. The more they had presented, the less intimidating it felt.
Okay, so we've got a range of experiences here, from those who conquer their fears to those who are still working through them. But what I find really insightful is that the study highlights just how different those internal experiences can be, even for people with the same level of outward anxiety.
That's a great point. In fact, the study gives a perfect example of this.
Okay.
They found 2 students who both scored a 19 out of 30 on the anxiety questionnaire, which would be considered like moderate anxiety.
So on paper, they have the same level of fear.
Exactly. But when they looked at the students' written reflections, they found vastly different experiences. One student admitted to feeling extreme nervousness, but tried to mask it with hand gestures.
Right.
The other students said they felt relaxed and comfortable during presentations.
Wow, that's a striking contrast.
Yeah.
It really shows that what one person considers moderate anxiety could be another person's utter terror.
Right. It underscores the importance of going beyond just the numbers and really listening to individual experiences. And this is particularly relevant when we think about practical strategies for overcoming presentation anxiety.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. It's about understanding that what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
So where do we start? What are some concrete steps people can take to manage their anxiety and become more confident presenters?
Well, the study highlights 3 key areas.
Right.
Practice, preparation, and personalization. We've already talked about the importance of practice and preparation.
Yeah.
But it's worth emphasizing that it's not just about quantity, it's about quality.
Okay, so it's not just about running through your slides a million times.
Right.
It's about how you practice.
Yeah.
What would be an example of quality practice?
It could be something as simple as recording yourself and watching the playback.
Right.
It can be cringeworthy at first.
Yeah.
But it allows you to see yourself as others see you and identify areas for improvement.
Right. You can catch those nervous tics you might not even be aware of.
Exactly.
And you mentioned seeking feedback.
Yes.
Who would be the best person to provide that feedback?
It could be a trusted friend, a mentor, a colleague.
Okay.
Anyone who can provide honest and constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the content of your presentation, it's about your delivery, your body language, your tone of voice.
So it's about getting a holistic view of how you come across.
Exactly.
And what about preparation? We know it's crucial, but how can we go beyond just knowing our stuff?
One key tip is to really understand your audience and tailor your message to their needs and interests. It's about crafting a narrative that resonates with them.
Yeah.
Not just presenting a dry list of facts and figures.
It's about making that connection, telling a story they can relate to.
Exactly.
And lastly, we have personalization.
Yes.
Why is that so important?
Because, as we've seen, everyone experiences anxiety differently.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
So it's about finding what works for you.
Exactly.
And creating your own personalized toolkit of anxiety-busting strategies.
Yeah.
What are some examples of these personalized techniques?
Well, some people find deep breathing exercises helpful.
Okay.
Others might benefit from visualization techniques where they imagine themselves giving a successful presentation.
Right.
Some might find comfort in having a lucky charm or a specific pre-presentation ritual.
It's about experimenting and figuring out what helps you feel more grounded and confident. And it sounds like this applies not just to students, but to anyone who struggles with public speaking anxiety.
Absolutely. Whether you're a seasoned professional or a first-time presenter, these principles hold true.
It's a reminder that this fear doesn't have to define us.
Right.
It's something we can learn to manage, overcome, and even use to our advantage.
Exactly. And the more we understand about the nature of this fear, the better equipped we are to face it head-on and become more confident, engaging speakers.
It's funny, as we've been talking about all these strategies for managing anxiety,
right.
It goes beyond just feeling better in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
There are, real career implications here.
Absolutely. In today's job market, strong communication skills, they're more valuable than ever.
Oh, for sure.
And this is especially true in fields like accounting, where the stereotype clashes with the actual demands of the profession.
It's this hidden hurdle.
Yeah.
You might be a whiz with numbers, but if you can't effectively communicate your insights, it's going to hold you back.
The study actually touches on this. It points out that employers, they consistently rank communication as one of the top skills.
Okay.
They seek in accounting graduates.
Makes sense.
Yet students often underestimate its importance.
It's almost like they're so focused on mastering the technical side.
Right.
that they miss this
Yeah.
crucial piece of the puzzle.
And that can have a real impact on their career trajectory.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They might struggle in job interviews, find it harder to, advance within their firms.
Right.
Or even miss out on opportunities altogether.
It's a powerful reminder that communication skills aren't just like soft skills.
Right.
They're essential for success in so many professions.
Exactly.
And it's not just about landing the job.
No.
It's about thriving in your career.
Yeah, like being able to articulate your ideas, present your findings persuasively, build strong relationships through communication.
Yeah.
These are all critical for long-term success.
So for anyone listening who might still be thinking, well, I'm not planning to be a public speaker.
Yeah.
Think again.
Right.
These skills are transferable to so many aspects of our professional lives.
Absolutely.
Whether you're leading a team meeting, pitching a new idea,
Right.
or simply communicating effectively with your colleagues, these skills are invaluable.
So true.
This has been such an enlightening deep dive.
It has.
We've debunked myths, explored anxieties, and most importantly, I think, we've discovered that this fear is not something we have to surrender to.
It's about reframing it. Instead of seeing public speaking as something to be dreaded, we can approach it as an opportunity for growth, both personally and professionally.
And while it might feel daunting at first, remember, it's a skill.
Right.
And like any skill, it can be learned and honed with practice and the right mindset.
And perhaps even a little bit of that nervous energy can be channeled into something positive,
Yeah.
into that spark that keeps your audience engaged and helps you deliver your message with impact.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listener with a thought.
Right.
Think about what story you want to tell, what message you want to share with the world.
Yeah.
Don't let fear hold you back.
Embrace the challenge, hone your skills, and step into that spotlight with confidence.
Because your voice matters.
It does.